Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the one and only DJ Storms. Mr. Controversy. And the operator of the best damn Twitter handle known to mankind, Mr. Controversy. Why do I call myself that? Why do I call myself Mr. Controversy? Because I say a lot of things that are not popular. And believe me, I'm not the only one. I'm just one of the many people out there that think the same way I think, that probably are doing the same thing that I'm doing right now as I'm speaking to you. And they receive the same exact heat and hate as I do. Now, I got into a conversation with this one guy on Twitter. I was having a conversation with 4 people at once, but this one specific guy was asking me a couple questions. Number one, why am I called Mr. Controversy? And he says oh, but you're saying the same thing that everyone else is saying. Yeah, I know. But is anyone doing it as good as I am? I may be saying the same thing that everyone else is saying, but honestly, can you tell me that it's sitting well with a lot of people? No, you can't. A lot of people do not like the things that I say. But they are the things that need to be said. You see, you don't need to work for the WWE. You don't need to be an analyst with a $1,000 suit working in $1 million building in Los Angeles. You don't need to work on the preview and prediction pre-show panel like Sam Roberts and Peter Rosenberg in order to know what you're talking about. You want an example? You look no further. I am, without a doubt, the biggest example, if not one of the biggest examples, of why you do not need to do this professionally. You don't need to be a Dave Meltzer. You don't need to have inside sources in order to know what you're talking about. And then he starts talking to me about, surprise, surprise, Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, without a doubt, the most talked about topic in the modern day WWE, and not in a good way. He starts comparing Roman Reigns' merch sales and starts comparing how the merch sales correlates to being over. No, it does not. Merch sales and being over, 2 different things. You need to know when to draw the line in the sand. Merch sales are a kind of a representation if a superstar is making money for the company. Being over has to do with the crowd reaction and the reasoning behind it. Let me tell you something right now. If you want controversy, and if you want something that no one else is going to offer you, or very few people are going to offer you, you come to me. If you want the news given to you, wrestling-wise, and if you want the facts delivered to you, wrestling-wise, in the most controversial fashion possible, you come to me. There is nobody, very few people, can do what I do. And just like Ricochet, I make this look good. But the reason why I wanted to get that off my chest, and the reason why I brought up Roman, is because he is a part of a big story that came out earlier this week. I'm going to start off this video with the news, rumors, and reports, and I want you guys to really think about this plan or this creative direction for Roman Reigns, because for the first time in these last 4 years, we don't really know where Roman Reigns is going. We knew where he was going last summer. He was going to finish his feud with Braun Strowman, and then he was going into the Fatal 4-Way for the Universal title at SummerSlam. But this is the first time in a while where we do not know the creative direction of Roman Reigns, until I heard from a little birdie, otherwise known as Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and Dave Meltzer stated that the current creative direction for Roman Reigns is to have Roman lose big match after big match and create himself as the next Daniel Bryan, and management will keep on screwing him over until he gets his big moment. I want you to think about that for a minute. Does Roman Reigns make a believable Daniel Bryan? Does anyone make a believable Daniel Bryan? There's only one other person in the entire WWE that is in Daniel Bryan's status, or is of Daniel Bryan's status, and in Daniel Bryan's area, and it's Johnny Gargano. Roman Reigns is the farthest thing from Daniel Bryan. Reigns is the farthest... Man, let me tell you something. I'm going to quote Samoa Joe here. Roman Reigns is a failure. End of story, period. And he doesn't have to be. He really doesn't have to be. But if you're trying to make him the next Daniel Bryan, how is that going to fare in the eyes of the fans? You do realize that Daniel Bryan was never, ever, ever scheduled to win the WWE World title at WrestleMania. He was scheduled to go into a feud with Sheamus until Vince McMahon was backed into a corner and management just pushed and pushed and pushed Vince McMahon to give Daniel Bryan what he so rightfully deserves. Roman Reigns was never like that. The fans never believed in Roman Reigns. After that Royal Rumble win in 2015, that was it. Roman Reigns' fate was sealed. They should have turned Roman Reigns heel after the first Brock Lesnar match. Doesn't even help that Roman Reigns has continued and continued and continued to be pushed over the WWE Championship nonetheless. So, how is this going to work? It's not. How do you expect this to work if every other plan before this has failed? Roman Reigns is going to lose big match after big match after big match, and the fans are going to be happy. The fans aren't going to whine and complain. The fans aren't going to chant for Roman Reigns. The fans aren't going to push for Roman Reigns to get what he deserves. The only people that are going to do that are the weak-minded sons of bitches and the fangirls that love Roman Reigns to death. And they have Roman Reigns as their profile pic. Those are the only types of fans that are going to be chanting and cheering for Roman Reigns to win. They are the ones that Vince McMahon wants. They are the ones that are easily manipulated by Vince McMahon. Those are the ones that have no sense of independency whatsoever. Those are the ones that are the sheep. They can't lead themselves. They have to be led. And that's exactly what Vince McMahon is doing. He's trying to lead those types of people to cheer for Roman. And most likely that will work because they are gullible as shit. But the majority of the wrestling community will continue to boo Roman Reigns, and they will continue to be satisfied with Roman Reigns losing. This is not going to work. The only thing that is going to work is what I've stated before and what many people in the past have stated before, a bona fide heel turn. But I needed to get that out of the way. We're going to continue on with the news, rumors, and reports here on the Lightning Flash Update. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Welcome to the Lightning Flash Update here on YouTube.com. So, my next report, after I got that out of the way. I wasted 9 minutes on that. I'm going to see how much time we have left. According to PW Insider, 2 matches for NXT TakeOver Chicago 2 have been confirmed. Now, this is more on the positive side. Number 1 is Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa in a street fight. And the other one is Aleister Black versus Lars Sullivan for the NXT Championship. I like those 2 matches. Number 1, because Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, more likely than not, it is going to end in the exact same place in which it began. 2, Aleister Black and Lars Sullivan, that's a very interesting match, if you think about it. And even though Lars Sullivan's undefeated streak could very well come to an end, it will put Aleister Black on the map as a fighting NXT champion. It will showcase what Aleister Black can really do against a larger competitor. And Aleister Black would really gain some momentum with a victory over a guy like Lars Sullivan. Plus, if this all leads to what I've been stating before TakeOver New Orleans with Johnny Gargano and Aleister Black at TakeOver Brooklyn 4, I'm all for it. I am all for it. I like those two matches. Very interested to see how those matches play out. My next report. Per Click Orlando by way of Cage Side Seats. Orlando officials are gearing up for another bid to host WrestleMania in either 2023 or 2025. So Orlando is very, very popular among WWE. They could very well be putting down money to host WrestleMania. Cage Side Seats, another report from Cage Side Seats. It is reporting that Brock Lesnar is now expected to defend the Universal Championship in the main event of SummerSlam and not Money in the Bank. If you guys remember, I reported last week on the Lightning Flash update that it was originally supposed to be Elias versus Brock Lesnar at Money in the Bank, but it looks like now that they're going to be putting Elias in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And I really hope this is not a setup for the Roman Reigns Daniel Bryan storyline, because if it is, then we are going to be in for a miserable summer in WWE. And my final report, before I get into the weekly show reviews, a shout out to Mr. Slice Wrestling. Go follow him at Slice Wrestling on Twitter. And I quote, report, WWE officials have discussed AJ Styles versus Nakamura in a last man standing match to continue their program. I like that decision. The endings that we've been getting, it almost calls for a last man standing match. And I am very much looking forward to the last man standing match at WWE Money in the Bank or whatever pay-per-view they decide to put it on. Now on to the weekly show reviews. We did things a little bit backwards, but I needed to get what I needed to get out in the beginning of the show. Monday Night Raw. It was actually a decent show. I enjoyed it. And everything made sense. Everything flowed nicely. And everything is building towards Money in the Bank. So Angle kicked off the show. And he announced that 2 Money in the Bank qualifying triple threat matches will take place. And Strowman then came out. He was wondering why he wasn't given a spot in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Kevin Owens then came out, and then he demanded that he should be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And then Braun Strowman made a qualifying match between Kevin Owens and Braun Strowman. And it was actually a good match. I enjoyed the match. Kevin Owens got a lot of his offense in. He got some super kicks. He got that senton to the back. He got the bullfrog splash. Braun Strowman, let me tell you something. One of the best things about Braun Strowman facing Kevin Owens is when Braun Strowman runs out to the ring and he does his patented running shoulder tackle, Kevin Owens sells it like he's getting flattened by a Mack truck. And that's exactly what Braun Strowman is, a Mack truck. He barrels into Kevin Owens at least 3 times, one which Kevin Owens flip-flops around the barricade. One time turned Kevin Owens inside out for a loop. He threw him back in the ring, hit the running power slam, and Braun Strowman's going to Money in the Bank. There was a segment backstage between Kurt Angle and Goldust, and I actually like how everyone is vying for Money in the Bank. It's not just the main stars. Everyone wants to be in Money in the Bank. It makes Money in the Bank feel a little bit more important. Jinder Mahal then came into the office of Kurt Angle, and he actually took a shot at Roman Reigns, and for once I actually agreed with Jinder. Why is Roman getting all these opportunities? Jinder would later play a factor into one of the matches, which I will talk about later. Baron Corbin and the Revival defeated No Way Jose and Titus Worldwide. I was expecting Corbin and the Revival to win because Corbin needs a win. Ever since he came over to Monday Night Raw, he lost to No Way Jose, and he's pretty much been treated as a joke. So I'm assuming that Baron Corbin is going to be put in the Money in the Bank ladder match and or possibly put into a program with Seth Rollins. It was a decent match for what it was. And if I was booking the Raw Tag Team division, I would actually have the Revival go up against Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt at Money in the Bank to give Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt a successful title defense, because the Revival really aren't doing anything right now. They really aren't doing anything. They deserve better. They definitely deserve better, but right now, Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt are the tag team that they need to build up as a force to be reckoned with. And possibly at either Extreme Rules or SummerSlam, they're dropping the titles to McIntyre and Ziggler. Ember Moon versus Ruby Riott versus Sasha Banks in a Money in the Bank qualifying match. This was a great match all around. We had some great wrestling. Sasha Banks and Ruby Riott tied it up. I would love to see a feud between Ember Moon and Sasha Banks in the future. I think that would be great. The Riott Squad actually helped out Ruby Riott because there was no disqualification. So they took out Sasha. And then Bayley came out to help Sasha. And then we had Sasha and Ruby Riott in the middle of the ring. And Ember Moon out of nowhere with a double eclipse, which echoed the double eclipse to Nikki Cross and Peyton Royce at TakeOver War Games. And Ember Moon pins Ruby Riott, and Ember Moon is going to Money in the Bank. Very good decision. The right woman won. And if I'm calling Money in the Bank right now, I'm calling Ember Moon. Because if Ember Moon wins Money in the Bank, then she could have an opportunity to cash in on maybe Nia Jax or maybe Sasha Banks. And possibly we might get a Nia Ember or Ember Sasha feud in the future. Bobby Lashley had a promo package. It was meaningless. This promo package was really meaningless. It really didn't do anything. It didn't showcase why Bobby Lashley had returned. It was just Bobby Lashley talking about his sisters and talking about his upbringing. Bobby Lashley needs to be put in a meaningful storyline very, very quickly, because if Bobby Lashley is not, then him coming back to WWE would be meaningless. Jinder Mahal defeated Chad Gable, and then he assaulted Chad Gable after the match. I actually thought Jason Jordan was going to come out and help Chad Gable, because Jason Jordan was rumored to be backstage at Monday Night Raw, but Jason Jordan did not come out. Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre, probably one of my favorite new duos on Monday Night Raw. There's been a lot of new tag teams forming. Obviously, we got Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt. The Authors of Pain recently came up. Over on SmackDown, Gallows and Anderson moved over to SmackDown. Bludgeon Brothers, they're the tag team champions. But McIntyre and Ziggler are really showcasing a different kind of intensity that we desperately need in the tag team division on Monday Night Raw. They ended up defeating Slater and Rhino. They were chance of 3MB when McIntyre and Slater locked up. And I was actually expecting that. But as Ziggler and McIntyre ended up defeating Slater and Rhino with the Claymore Zigzag, and let me tell you something, that tag team finish is probably the smoothest tag team finish I've seen since the Sweet Chin Music Pedigree combination. Great tag team finish. Bobby Roode then defeated Elias. Their second match was better. Their second match was still their best match that they've had to date. But Bobby Roode got a much-needed win over Elias, and he basically stated that he wanted to be in Money in the Bank. I hope he turns heel soon. Seth Rollins came out. This is actually a positive of the show, and he wanted to be a fighting champion, and he put down an IC title open challenge, and Mojo Rawley accepted. Now, the reason why I like Mojo Rawley accepting is because a guy like Mojo Rawley, he can take a loss. Mojo Rawley's not going to hurt from a loss to Seth Rollins. So I like that. Put down an open challenge and put people forth that will not hurt from losses to Seth Rollins. Mojo Rawley is one of them. It actually turned out to be a very good match. Seth Rollins was able to bring a very good match out of Mojo Rawley. Mojo Rawley got his offense in. Rollins ended up getting the win with the Revolution knee, and the curb stomp to retain the Intercontinental Championship. Hardy and Wyatt then defeated Daxel. Daxel. You might as well call him Daxel. But Axel and Dallas were defeated at the hands of the tag team champions. Then in the main event, Finn Balor versus Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns. A very good triple threat match. We had the brawl spill out into the crowd, in which Finn Balor and Sami Zayn double-teamed Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns would obviously come back, because it wouldn't be a Roman Reigns match without Roman Reigns getting a Hulk Hogan-like comeback. Roman was on the verge of winning, but Jinder Mahal came out, tripped up Roman Reigns. Finn Balor and Sami Zayn took advantage of it, but Finn Balor got the upper hand, hit the shotgun dropkick and the coup de grace for the win. Thank you, Jinder. Praise be the name Jinder Mahal. And when Jinder Mahal and Roman Reigns lock up, the babyface reaction for Jinder Mahal is going to be unparalleled. Mark my words. SmackDown Live was pretty much the same thing as Raw. It was a decent show. Paige kicked off the show, and she says that we will hear from both Nakamura and AJ Styles. It was a quick and straightforward promo. Then we had The Miz versus Jeff Hardy in a Money in the Bank qualifying match. Great match. Both men showcased what they are capable of. I expected The Miz to win, and that's what he did. Hardy hit the Twist of Fate for a second time and then the Swanton Bomb, but Miz rolled Hardy up in the crucifix for the win. Let me tell you something. These past two performances by The Miz made me a fan of The Miz. I have been souring on The Miz ever since he won the title from Zack Ryder after WrestleMania 32. But now, after what he's been doing this past week, I got nothing but praise for The Miz. The Bar was backstage, and obviously they do not like pancakes. The Bar was backstage, and Cesaro was set to face Xavier Woods, and then they opened their training bags, and they were filled with pancakes. Sanity had a promo package. Nakamura was interviewed, and when he was asked when or if AJ Styles and him were finished, he said, no. Speak English. So Nakamura, just being a cocky asshole, is funny as hell. And he basically said in the end that AJ Styles is nuts, pun intended, but they are not finished. Charlotte then defeated Peyton Royce in a Money in the Bank qualifying match. It was a decent match. I expected Charlotte to win. Cesaro then defeated Xavier Woods. And that uppercut that Cesaro gave Xavier Woods, my God, it was brutal. A brutal uppercut, and Xavier Woods was bleeding at the mouth. I think that he might have bit on his tongue as he was coming down. But what got me thinking here, though it was a decent match, Cesaro got the win over Xavier Woods, and Cesaro was bragging that Sheamus could not defeat Woods. Could we be seeing the Bar splitting up in the future? If so, I would like to see that. Next week, we actually got the New Day versus the Bar, and the winner of that match will have one member of their team entered into the Money in the Bank ladder match on the SmackDown side. Styles was interviewed. He said that he is not finished with Nakamura. Mandy Rose versus Becky Lynch. Why did Mandy Rose defeat Becky Lynch? Though it was not a Money in the Bank qualifying match, why did Mandy Rose get the victory over Becky Lynch? Why is Becky Lynch still being treated like a jobber? You know, one would think that after the 4 Horsewomen got called up from NXT, we'd actually get competitive women's matches. Obviously, we got one with Charlotte and Peyton Royce, but you're really going to have Mandy Rose, of all people, defeat Becky Lynch when Mandy Rose has absolutely done nothing since she's been on the main roster? I mean, fine, you want to make her a single star, that's alright and all that. You want to build her as God's greatest creation, fine. But at least start small. And at least have her compete in a competitive match, not a 1-minute squash against Becky Lynch. All I've been hearing is Mandy Rose has potential. Well, show me what you got then. Producing a 1-minute squash match with Becky Lynch losing is horrible. On the bright side, we do get the debut of El Ídolo, La Sombra, Cien Alma. We got Andrade Cien Almas next week from the O2 Arena in London, England. In the main event, Rusev defeated Daniel Bryan. This is actually a shock, but I understand why they had Rusev defeat Daniel Bryan in that Money in the Bank qualifying match. It was a very good match to begin with. And the reason why is because now that you have Daniel Bryan out of the Money in the Bank ladder match, obviously they got to finish up the feud with Big Cass. But if Nakamura wins the WWE title, we could build to Nakamura versus Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam, and then, if The Miz wins Money in the Bank, Miz cashes in on Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam, and what happens? Now, we start building towards The Miz versus Daniel Bryan in a feud for the ages. Let me tell you something. Daniel Bryan goes on to win the WWE title at SummerSlam, and Miz cashes in. That right there would be a moment that Daniel Bryan is never going to forget, and it is going to give those guys an even bigger reason to feud. Very good match, and the right man won. Rusev defeated Daniel Bryan. So it's now Rusev, Miz, Balor, and Strowman in Money in the Bank. 205 Live. This match was mainly built around Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy has been the center of attention for quite some time now on 205 Live, and he's only been there for 3 months. Drew Gulak was on commentary for the tag team match between the Lucha House Party and Kendrick and Gallagher. It was actually a decent match for what it was. Lucha House Party and Kendrick and Gallagher showcasing what they got. I like the double team move between Kendrick and Gallagher with that drop kick into the sliced bread number 2. That was innovative offense. Obviously, we had Metalik and Dorado doing some suicide dives. We had both teams going back and forth, and the Lucha House Party won with Dorado hitting that beautiful shooting star press. Tony Nese then defeated a jobber. I was expecting Tony Nese to get back on the winning track, so it's a good thing that Tony Nese is being built up. I would love to see Tony Nese in the Cruiserweight title picture in the future. Hideo Itami. I was liking the tag team with Tozawa, but based on what is going on, heel Itami is the best Itami. He was basically interviewed saying, Tozawa doesn't deserve me. I didn't like teaming with Tozawa. I'm better than that. So if we're going to get an Itami versus Tozawa feud in the future, which could very well propel one of them into the Cruiserweight title picture with Alexander, I'm all for it. I love the storylines in 205 Live. Very simple to follow, very straightforward, and Itami, he's just being a selfish dick. He just wants the spotlight all to himself. He doesn't care for Tozawa. Heel Itami is the best Itami. The UK stars are coming to 205 Live next week. I expect to see Mark Andrews. I expect to see Tyler Bate. I expect to see maybe James Drake. I expect to see Joseph Connors, maybe. We saw them the last time WWE was in the UK. So, obviously, we're probably going to get a match between Tyler Bate and Cedric Alexander. And my God, if we get that match, you imagine what that match is going to do for the Cruiserweight division? But in the main event, Buddy Murphy defeated Mustafa Ali. This was a great match. This was probably one of the best matches of the week. Buddy Murphy and Mustafa Ali, this was better than their first encounter, by far. And let me tell you something, they're building up Drew Gulak as a badass heel. Buddy Murphy is the perfect definition of a badass heel. Just doesn't care, just coming off as a cocky asshole, just demanding title matches, just beating the shit out of everyone he's in the ring with. I love that triple powerbomb move that he adopted. This match was great all around. There was a point in this match where Mustafa Ali, he did one of those standing tornado DDTs when Murphy was tied up in the ropes. Murphy's selling is on point, very much like RVD. Murphy and Mustafa went back and forth. Murphy hit an innovative version of the DDT. Mustafa Ali caught Murphy with a super kick as Murphy was coming off the top rope to the floor. Murphy worked on Mustafa Ali's arm after Mustafa Ali attempted to do another 450 to the arm. But Murphy moved, and Murphy was able to target Mustafa's arm and hit Murphy's Law. And now, just announced, we have Murphy versus Cedric for the Cruiserweight Championship on the May 29th episode of 205 Live. This is going to be a fun month and a fun summer for the Cruiserweight division. NXT. This is a very entertaining episode, a lot of storyline progression. Ricochet had an interview. He basically stated that he is looking to take over NXT and win the NXT title. The Velveteen Dream interrupted. He basically stated that when it comes to Ricochet, you are going to be in the back of the line no matter how you flip or flop. And Ricochet wanted Velveteen Dream to prove himself. But the Velveteen Dream faked out Ricochet and just slid out of the ring in that slick Viper-like fashion that the Velveteen Dream slithers away to. And we're probably going to get these two at TakeOver Chicago too, which is going to be one of the matches of the night. Matter of fact, this could very well be match of the year if given the proper time. Moving on, EC3 defeated Raul Mendoza in a decent match. Raul Mendoza actually got a lot of offense in. And EC3 cut a very good promo. He basically stated, you're going to get victory after victory after victory until EC3 is the NXT champion. Lorcan, Birch, and Dunn look to be forming a 6-man unit, and they get the Undisputed Era next week. Dakota Kai defeated Vanessa Bourne. Baszler came out and choked out Bourne as Kai retreated, and Nikki Cross was actually shown backstage laughing at the little interaction between Dakota Kai and Shayna Baszler. So Nikki Cross could very well be entering the NXT Women's Championship mix. The War Raiders defeated Heavy Machinery. It was a short but very fun match. The Street Profits are seeking revenge against TM61. They are looking to become NXT Tag Team Champions. And then in the main event, Tommaso Ciampa and Cassius Ohno. My God, this match was brutal. I don't think I've ever seen this brutal of a match in a while. Because these two were just beating the shit out of each other, raking the eyes, just hitting elbows and kicks. Cassius Ohno, showing a newfound intensity, really gave his character life. But Tommaso Ciampa won with a hangman's facebuster of some sort. It was a very great match, and it was just a war. It was a war all around. He then did the same exact move that Gargano did to him after the match, a crossface with the knee brace. And he was just telling Cassius Ohno that Johnny Gargano's fantasy is over, and you just suffered at his hands or something like that. Tommaso Ciampa just being such a badass heel. Him and Murphy are two of the best heels that they got on NXT and 205 Live. So both men doing a great job. And Tommaso Ciampa versus Johnny Gargano in a street fight. You know, if their first match was good, this match could be even better. And ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this edition of The Rundown. I would like to thank each and every one of you who tuned into this video. Do not forget to like, comment, subscribe. Do not forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at TheDJStorms. Do not forget to check out the Lightning Flash update for next week. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm the one and only DJ Storms. This has been the Lightning Flash update, and you have a great weekend.